Anxiety. It's that feeling so many of us are familiar with, that constant hum in the background of our lives. But what if there was a real, structured way to just turn down the volume on all that noise? Well, today, we're going to break down a tool that promises to do exactly that. I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? Our phones are always buzzing, deadlines are always looming, and the to-do lists just never seem to end. Trying to find a little peace in all that can feel, well, almost impossible. And this feeling of being constantly on, it's a massive driver of the anxiety so many of us feel today. So, when we're looking for answers, where do we go? For a lot of us, we turn to books. So let's do just that. We're going to dive into the source for this explainer and see what it's promising us, right from the very first glance at its cover. Okay, so here it is. This is our source material. Now, before we even think about opening page 1, let's just deconstruct this cover. What's the message it's sending? What is it trying to tell us before we've even read a single word? All right, let's start with those first few words, the complete guide. I mean, complete is a huge promise, right? It suggests this is going to be an A to Z journey, the whole shebang. And inside, Sharma builds this guide around one central idea: spotting and breaking what he calls anxiety loops. Those vicious cycles where a worry kicks off a physical reaction, which of course just creates more worry. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The cover tells us this isn't just something you're supposed to read. It's something you're supposed to do. And that simple fact, it changes the entire dynamic from just passively learning to actively getting involved. The keyword here, the real game changer, is workbook. A workbook needs you to participate. It's not about just soaking up information and hoping some of it sticks. For example, one of the main exercises in the book is called the loop dissector. This is where you don't just jot down a worry. You actually map out all the thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations that keep that worry spinning and spinning. And this right here, this lays out the difference perfectly. A regular book, you read it to absorb information, but a workbook is all about applying techniques. It's the bridge between knowing what an anxiety loop is and actually using a tool like the loop dissector to take your own apart. It's a tool, not just a text. So how does this whole practical approach actually work? Well, it follows this really clear path. First, you use the exercises to really understand your own personal anxiety patterns. Next, you learn a specific pattern interrupt technique, something like a grounding exercise that pulls you right back to the present moment. And finally, and this is the most important part, you apply that technique in your daily life the second you feel one of those loops starting to spin up. So, all this work, all this active practice, it's all pointing towards a very specific goal. It's not about some fuzzy idea of feeling better someday. No, the promise here is way more concrete, way more immediate. And there it is, the full subtitle. This one sentence is basically the book's mission statement. The practical part, that's all those hands-on exercises we talked about. The goal, daily peace, which you get by using those tools in the moment. And what does that build? Real, earned confidence that you can actually handle these feelings when they show up. Let's really break that down. Daily peace doesn't mean you'll never feel stress again. That's not realistic. It's about finding those moments of calm and control by shutting down those anxiety loops day in and day out. And confidence? Well, that's the result of all that practice. It's that self-assurance you get from knowing, for a fact, that you have the tools you need to handle anxiety when it pops up. So as we wrap up this little deconstruction, it all kind of comes back to one single action. The whole message of a workbook is that change happens in small, practical steps. And that leaves us with a final question to think about for ourselves. Forget any book or guide for a second. What is one small, real step you could take toward your own sense of peace right now, today?